This is Learn English with Ease.
English made powerful, simple, and yours.
Hey, welcome back. Or, if it's your first time here, I just want to say, thank you for being here. You didn't end up on this podcast by accident. You found this episode because something in you wants more. More confidence, more freedom, more ease in the way you speak English. And maybe you've been trying hard, studying, practicing, watching videos, reading books, and yet, there's still this feeling deep inside, like you're not progressing fast enough. Like no matter how much you learn, you still don't feel confident when it's time to speak. If that's you, today's episode is especially for you. Because today, we're not going to talk about grammar rules or vocabulary lists or pronunciation drills. We're going to talk about something even more important, how you talk to yourself while learning English. I know that might sound strange at first, but stay with us, because your inner voice, the things you tell yourself in silence, that voice is the key to either unlocking your fluency or blocking it completely. And I'll tell you a truth I wish someone told me when I was younger. It's not your intelligence, not your memory, not your accent, and definitely not your age that's holding you back. It's your belief. It's your self-talk. It's that invisible dialogue happening inside you every time you speak.
Jack, that already gave me chills. Because you're right. And most people have no idea that this is what's really keeping them stuck. It's not that they're bad at English. It's that their brain has been trained to expect failure. Let's be real. How many of us were ever taught to speak kindly to ourselves while learning? Most of us, especially in school or traditional classrooms, were taught through correction, comparison, even shame. You make a mistake? Someone laughs. You mispronounce a word? They correct you harshly. You freeze during a presentation? You get judged. So what do? We start preparing for failure before we even open our mouths. We tell ourselves things like, I'm going to mess this up. They're going to laugh at me. My accent sounds terrible. I'm so slow. I'll never be fluent. And we think we're being honest. But really, we're building a cage around ourselves. And it breaks my heart, because so many amazing, smart, kind people stop speaking English altogether just because they think they're not good enough. But it's not about being good enough. It's about feeling safe. When your brain feels emotionally safe, learning becomes easier. Your memory works better, your creativity flows, you feel calm, and that safety starts with the way you talk to yourself.
Exactly. And the thing is, Emma, most learners are so hard on themselves and don't even realize it. It becomes a habit, a background noise. They make one small mistake and immediately think, ugh, I'm so stupid. They try to speak but forget a word and go, see, I knew I'd mess up. They hear someone else speak fluently and think, I'll never be like that. What's the point? And you know what that does over time? It kills motivation. Because when your own mind is your biggest critic, you lose the courage to try again. And here's where positive self-talk comes in. Not as a fake, everything is perfect mindset, but as a tool to help you keep going when it's hard. A tool to encourage your brain to stay open, not shut down. A tool to remind yourself, I'm learning. Mistakes are part of the process. I'm doing better than I think. That kind of talk might feel awkward at first, but it's powerful. It's healing. It shifts your relationship with English from pressure to permission.
Yes. And I want to get real for a second. When I was learning Spanish in university, I used to hate speaking out loud. I was so scared of sounding stupid. So every time I had to speak, I'd rehearse it 100 times in my head, and still, if I forgot even one word, I would feel like a failure. And after class, I'd go home and replay the conversation in my head, criticizing everything. Why did I say that? Ugh, I sound so dumb. I should just stop trying. And that over time made me freeze. It wasn't Spanish that was the problem. It was the war I was having with myself. The moment I started speaking to myself with more compassion, saying things like, it's okay, you tried, you're improving, everything changed. I became more relaxed. My brain actually remembered words better. And guess what? My speaking got smoother. Not because I studied harder, but because I felt safer. Your brain needs safety to perform. It's not about intelligence. It's about emotional permission.
That's so powerful, Emma. And I want to underline what you said. The brain learns through repetition. Yes, but also through emotion. If the emotion attached to learning is fear, anxiety, shame, your brain will resist it. But if the emotion is encouragement, excitement, curiosity, your brain will embrace it. That's why we're so passionate about this podcast, because we want to help English learners not just study English, but feel good in English, and that starts with reprogramming the voice inside. You can't always control what others say about you, but you can start to change what you say to you. You can choose to stop the cycle of self-bullying. You can choose to speak to yourself like you'd speak to your best friend, with kindness, with support, with patience.
Yes, and I want everyone listening to try something with me right now. Something simple but powerful. Close your eyes for a moment. Just breathe. And in your mind, repeat these words after me, or say them out loud if you feel brave. I am learning, I am improving, I am allowed to make mistakes. I speak English with more confidence every day. I am enough, right here, right now. That's not fake. That's not cheesy. That's called rewiring, because for so long you've been repeating negative lines. Now it's time to plant new ones.
And let's not forget, this isn't just about speaking English. This is about how you show up in life. When you start speaking to yourself with love and belief, it affects everything, not just your English, but your confidence, your job, your relationships, your mood. Self-talk isn't just background noise, it's your inner environment. And your environment matters. So if your inner voice has been cruel, it's time to kick it out. It doesn't belong here. Replace it with a coach, not a critic. A friend, not a bully.
I love that. Replace the critic with a coach, because you don't need more pressure. You need more support. And you know what? You are already doing better than you think. You're listening to this podcast. You're trying. You're growing. That's already amazing. You don't have to be perfect. You just have to keep going. And we'll be right here with you.
Now let's go even deeper. Because I know someone listening might be thinking, okay, I get that positive self-talk is important, but how do I actually do it? What do I say? And won't it feel fake? That's such a good question. I felt the same way when I first started trying to change the way I spoke to myself. At first, it does feel awkward. You're so used to hearing the harsh voice, the one that tells you you're not good enough, that you'll never get it right, that anything different feels uncomfortable. But here's what I learned. That discomfort isn't a sign that it's fake. It's a sign that it's new, and everything new feels uncomfortable at first. So what you need are real tools. Actual English phrases you can use to talk to yourself, to practice, to stay grounded, especially when you're feeling anxious or insecure about your fluency. Let me share a few that helped me. One of my favorites is, "It's okay not to be perfect. I'm making progress." Another one, "I'm allowed to speak slowly. My words still matter." And this one really helped me when I'd freeze during conversations. "I don't need to be fluent to connect. I just need to be present." Just saying those out loud, even in your mind, shifts your energy. It brings your nervous system out of panic and into peace. And when you're calm, guess what? Fluency flows naturally.
That's beautiful, Jack. And I want to add to that with something I call mirror work. It sounds simple, maybe even a little silly, but it's powerful. Here's how it works. Stand in front of a mirror. Yes, really. Look yourself in the eyes and say something encouraging out loud. It could be, "You're trying, that's enough." Or, "You're doing better than you realize." Or, "You're learning a new language, and that's incredibly brave." The first time I did it, I cried. Not because I was sad, but because no one had ever said those things to me, and I had never said them to myself. We wait our whole lives for someone else to give us permission to feel proud, when all along we had the power to give that to ourselves. So when you're feeling stuck in English, when you forget a word or mispronounce something or feel embarrassed after a conversation, I want you to pause, go to the mirror, look at yourself, and say, "That was brave, and I'm proud of you." It changes something. It softens the tension. And it teaches your brain that mistakes aren't danger, they're just data.
Wow, that's so true. Mistakes aren't danger, they're data. I love that, and let me build on that. Let's talk about what happens in the brain when we use positive self-talk. When you say something kind to yourself, your brain actually releases a chemical called dopamine. It's the same chemical that helps you feel rewarded, which means it strengthens the neural pathways associated with that action. So when you say, "I'm getting better at this," your brain goes, "Oh, okay, this is good, let's do more of that." And it starts reinforcing the behavior, in this case, speaking English with less fear. But when you say, "I suck at this," your brain shuts down the learning pathways. It goes into protection mode. You become hypercritical, and your motivation disappears. So positive self-talk isn't just some feel-good concept. It's actual neuroscience. It's how your brain learns best.
Yes. And I think a lot of people, especially those who've grown up in very critical environments, struggle with that. They think, if I go easy on myself, I'll become lazy. I won't improve. But actually, it's the opposite. When you feel safe, when you feel supported, when you feel encouraged, you want to improve, not because you're scared of failing, but because you're excited to grow. That's what we want to invite you into today. A new relationship with English. One that's built on encouragement, not criticism. And Jack, I want to ask you something. What would you say to someone who's been trying to speak English for years, but still feels like they're not getting anywhere?
That's such an important question. First, I'd say, you're not behind. You're exactly where you need to be right now. Language isn't a race. It's not about getting somewhere faster than others. It's about building a relationship with words, with culture, and with yourself. And every relationship takes time. Second, I'd say, your fluency doesn't define your intelligence. I've met people with beautiful ideas, huge hearts, amazing creativity, who just happen to be struggling with English. That doesn't mean they're less smart. It just means they're still learning the right tools. And often the biggest missing tool is self-trust. And finally, I'd say this. You're allowed to be proud of how far you've come, even if you're not where you want to be yet. Think about that for a moment. You started learning something new. You pushed through discomfort. You showed up. That's not something to feel ashamed of. That's something to celebrate.
I couldn't agree more. And let me speak directly to the person listening right now. The one who's been feeling like they're always one step behind. Like everyone else is more fluent, more natural, more confident. Listen. Everyone you admire was once a beginner. Everyone you compare yourself to has made mistakes. Some of them worse than yours. And none of them became fluent by being perfect. They became fluent by being consistent and by staying kind to themselves along the way. So take the pressure off. You don't need to catch up to anyone. You just need to keep showing up and speaking to yourself like someone who's worthy of learning. Because you are.
That's so powerful, Emma. And you know what? One of the things that helped me the most when I was learning was keeping a little self-talk journal. Every time I practiced English and felt nervous or discouraged, I'd open my notebook and write a few encouraging lines. Sometimes it was just, "I tried today, that's enough." Other times it was, "My pronunciation is getting clearer." Or even, "That conversation was awkward, but I survived it, and I'm proud."
For how far you've come. For how much you've pushed through. For how many times you wanted to give up and didn't. That's what self-talk is about. It's not fake praise. It's not pretending everything's fine. It's choosing to see your progress, even when it feels invisible.
Those are the real victories, and they deserve to be honored. Because if you can start seeing those tiny moments as proof of progress, you'll start building a fluency that goes way beyond words. That's so well said. And you know what else? I think learners often wait for some big milestone, like passing a test or landing a job, to feel proud. But honestly, the most meaningful growth happens in the quiet moments. The day you speak up, even with fear in your chest. The time you correct yourself and smile instead of panic. The moment you forgive yourself for struggling and keep going anyway.
Yes. A fluency of the heart. A fluency of courage. A fluency of self-trust. That's the fluency that lasts. Even when you forget a word, even when you stumble, even when life gets in the way. And here's the beautiful part. You can start building that today, right now, with one kind sentence, one loving thought, one choice to be gentle with yourself. That's all it takes to begin.
I love that so much, and I think we should leave our listeners with a question, something they can carry into the rest of their day. So here it is. What would change in your English journey if your inner voice became your biggest supporter? Really sit with that. Imagine if your self-talk became the friend you always needed, the coach who believed in you, the mentor who said, "Keep going. You're doing better than you think." That's what's possible. That's what we're inviting you into. A journey where your voice isn't something to fix. It's something to love. All right, friend. If you're still with us, I want you to take a moment. Just breathe. You've been listening, reflecting, maybe even tearing up a bit. And I want to say, this moment right here, it's not small. This is you, choosing growth, choosing healing, choosing to be kinder to the one person you'll always live with, yourself. We've covered so much today. Not grammar, not phrasal verbs, not vocabulary lists, but something far more powerful. Your inner language. Because before you ever speak English to the world, you speak to yourself. And that inner voice, it shapes everything. It decides whether you show up or stay silent, whether you try again or give up, whether you say, "I can't" or "I'm learning." So if there's one thing you take away from this episode, let it be this. You are already enough, right now. Not when you speak faster, not when you sound more native, not when your sentences are perfect, but now, in your accent, in your effort, in your journey, right now.
Jack, I'm feeling that deep in my heart. And I want to leave our beautiful listener with something gentle and real. A little love letter, if you will. To the one listening to this. The one who's been doubting themselves. The one who freezes when someone asks, "Do you speak English?" The one who replays every little mistake in their mind. The one who hides their voice because they're afraid of being judged. We see you, and we want you to know, you're doing better than you think. You are not behind. You are not broken. You are becoming. You are worthy of being heard. You are allowed to take your time. You are allowed to love your accent. It's the sound of your story. And you are allowed to speak, even if you're scared, even if it's messy, even if you forget the words halfway through. Because fluency is not about never making mistakes. Fluency is about staying connected to yourself and to others, even when you do. So today, choose compassion over criticism. Choose gentleness over judgment. Choose to say, "I am proud of where I am and excited for where I'm going."
And if no one's told you this today, we're proud of you for showing up, for listening this far, for caring enough to grow, and for being brave enough to change your inner story. Because when you change your self-talk, you don't just speak better English, you speak a better life. One filled with confidence, connection, and self-trust. And you don't need to do it all at once. You don't need to be perfect tomorrow. You just need to begin with one sentence, like, "I'm learning. I'm growing. I believe in me." That's how fluency begins, with love. And love starts with how you talk to you.
So keep going. Keep showing up. Keep being beautifully, unapologetically human in your English journey. And we'll be right here, cheering you on every step of the way. This is Learn English with Ease. And this is your new beginning.
We'll see you in the next episode.
And remember, you don't have to chase perfect English. Just keep choosing kind English with yourself.